Christmas has always been quiet for me. Not peaceful, not warm, just quiet. The kind of quiet that lets you hear everything. And I mean everything. That year, I was alone for the first time. Parents out of state, friends with families, everyone's celebrating except me. I volunteered to work late shifts, so I'd at least have something to do during the day, thinking it would make the evening feel shorter. By the time I walked through my front door, the neighborhood was silent. Streetlights cast long shadows over the snow-covered pavement. Houses glowed with warm lights behind closed curtains, laughter and music muffled inside. I wasn't inside anyone's warmth that night. I unlocked the door, stepped in, and immediately smelled pine. Not the artificial scent from my small tree. Something else. Faint. Almost organic. I shrugged it off at first, assuming it was leftover from the tree or a neighbor's firewood. But then I noticed the temperature. It was wrong. The house felt heavier, thicker, like the air itself add weight. I set my coat down and glanced around. The living room was exactly how I'd left it. The tree stood in the corner, gifts carefully arranged underneath. But then I noticed the ornament. A small, red, round ornament hanging low on the tree. I hadn't put it there. I stepped closer, touched it. Warm. Not from the lights. They weren't even on. I pulled back, suddenly aware of the quiet how still it felt. I began checking the rest of the house. Bedroom, empty. Bathroom, empty. Closet, empty. Back door locked. Windows closed. Everything in its place. But that warmth, that presence, it didn't belong. And it wasn't gone. Over the next hour, small things began happening. My phone charger, always on the counter, had been moved a few inches. A cushion on the couch had been pressed down, like someone had sat there. I swore I heard breathing behind me when I stepped into the kitchen. I tried to convince myself it was stress. Working late shifts, eating alone, darkness, loneliness. It makes your mind trick itself into seeing movement, hearing footsteps, imagining shadows. But then the jingling started. A soft, single chime, like a bell from a decoration, from somewhere in the living room. I froze, waited. The ornament swayed gently. Not spinning, not falling. Swaying. It was the same one I had touched earlier. I tiptoed closer. Nothing visible moved. No one there. But the sense of being observed pressed in on me. I called my neighbor, Mrs. Hargrove, to see if she had seen anything. She laughed softly, said, "Oh dear, it's Christmas night. Everyone's quiet." Then she paused. Sometimes the older houses, they have echoes. Things move when you're not looking. Lower voice. I thanked her and hung up, heart racing. The echo in the apartment didn't feel natural. It felt like someone waiting. A knock on the door followed. No one there, just a small package sitting neatly on the mat. I hadn't ordered anything. Inside, a single red ornament, exactly like the one hanging on my tree. Warm. I set the ornament on the table, heart still racing. Try to laugh it off. Told myself, it's just stress. It's just being alone. Nothing else. But the apartment didn't agree. The air felt heavier in the corners, like it was pressing against me. Observing. Every small noise was amplified. The hum of the fridge, the creak of the floorboards, even the faint whistle of the heater. I decided to make some tea. Kettle on the stove. Water boiling. Steam rising. And that's when I heard it. A soft scraping sound from the living room. Not sharp, not urgent. Slow, deliberate, like someone dragging a hand along the wall. I froze mid-step. The kettle whistled again, louder this time. I convinced myself it was the heater again, old pipes shifting, house settling. But the scraping didn't stop. I tiptoed to the doorway, peered into the living room. Nothing. Then I noticed the tree. The red ornament was gone. I didn't scream, didn't move, just stared. Then, from the kitchen, a faint click. The back door handle turned slowly. I didn't breathe. Earlier that week, I had received an odd delivery. A box with no label, left at the door. Inside, a single candy cane and a folded note that read, "You like the decorations." I had laughed it off at first. Maybe someone meant it as a prank. But then the neighbor, young Tommy from across the hall, had walked by my window that night. He smiled, waved, and said quietly, "Nice tree this year. Real bright." I hadn't told anyone about the ornaments. Not friends, not neighbors, not even posting photos online. And yet, he knew. By midnight, I couldn't focus. Every creak, every shadow, every light flicker made my pulse spike. I started checking the locks obsessively. 3 times, 4 times, even the windows. I could almost feel eyes watching me from behind every curtain, every dark corner. I remembered stories from my childhood. How my parents would say, the quietest houses are the ones where something is hiding. I had laughed then. Now I understood. I tried lying down on the couch. Blanket over me. Lights on. Phone in hand. But the moment I closed my eyes, I felt it. A presence in the room. I told myself, just go to sleep. It's fine. Pause. And then the jingling started again. One soft chime, then another, and another, each chime closer than the last. The sound seemed to move around the room. I could almost hear breathing. Slow, calm, observing. I got up to investigate. The red ornament was back on the tree, swaying slightly. And then I noticed the gifts. One had shifted from its original spot. Another lid slightly ajar. I backed away slowly, heart hammering. I didn't touch anything. Didn't want to provoke it. Then I saw it, a small handprint on a glass ornament. Not mine. I never touched it before. By 2 a.m. I could barely think. Every small noise made me flinch. The jingling from the tree had returned. This time it wasn't soft. It was deliberate, slow, measured, lower voice. I told myself to stay calm. I sat in the living room, hands trembling, staring at the tree. Nothing moved, yet I felt it. The presence was close, closer than before. Then I heard the steps, soft, heavy, deliberate, moving down the hallway outside my bedroom. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. My phone slipped from my trembling hand. Seconds passed, then minutes, and the steps moved again toward the living room. I wanted to scream, but my voice wouldn't work. The air felt thick, almost like it was pressing on my throat. I slowly peeked around the corner. The tree, ornaments swaying, one gift slightly open, revealing the top of the wrapping, and on top the red ornament. It was warm, too warm, as if someone had been holding it just minutes ago. I could see my reflection in the nearby window, and then I noticed another reflection, a shadow, tall, hunched, watching from the hallway. I froze, heart hammering. The shadow didn't move, but I knew it was alive and waiting. Earlier, I had spoken to Tommy, the neighbor, about Christmas deliveries. I hadn't told him about the ornament. Yet, I could swear I heard a faint whisper from the corner near the window. Nice tree. You like red, don't you? I stumbled back, almost knocking over the couch. The voice wasn't Tommy's. It wasn't anyone's. And it didn't belong in my house. Morning came. Pale, cold, unforgiving. I didn't sleep. Every creak, every draft, every sound kept me alert. On the floor, under one of the gifts, a note. White paper, folded neatly. Merry Christmas. Thank you for leaving the door unlocked. I felt bile rise in my throat. The front door had been locked, hadn't it? I remembered turning the handle out of habit. I had not checked the deadbolt. Police came later. No forced entry. No fingerprints. No sign anyone had been there. Just a red ornament gone. Weeks later, the ornament reappeared, taped to the inside of my front door. This year, it had a new note. See you next Christmas. I moved out before New Year's. I don't decorate anymore. And every Christmas night, no matter where I am, I check my doors twice. I've never liked Christmas carolers. There's something unsettling about people singing outside your house at night. Voices drifting through the dark, smiling faces you don't recognize, standing too close to your windows. Most people find it charming. I never did. That year, I lived alone in a small duplex at the edge of town. Quiet street, few neighbors, no streetlights close enough to reach my bedroom window. On Christmas Eve, it snowed just enough to make everything feel muted. The world outside looked soft and peaceful. Too peaceful. I was already in bed when I heard the singing. At first, I thought it was coming from the TV in another apartment. Soft, slow, almost comforting. Then I realized it wasn't coming from inside. It was outside my window. One voice. Not a group. Not laughing. not moving from house to house. Just one person singing quietly. I lay still, listening. The song was wrong. Not off-key wrong. Too slow. Too deliberate. Like someone dragging each word out, savoring it. I checked the time. 12:11 a.m. No one goes caroling at midnight. I told myself not to look. Every instinct screamed at me to stay in bed, to pretend I hadn't heard anything. But curiosity won. I slowly lifted the edge of the curtain. There was a man standing in my yard. Not near the sidewalk. Not near the street. Right below my bedroom window. Pause. He wasn't holding song sheets. No flashlight. No phone. Just standing there in the snow, looking directly at my house. Singing. He didn't look drunk. Didn't sway. Didn't move at all. The snow gathered on his shoulders while he stood there, perfectly still. That's when I noticed something that made my stomach drop. He wasn't looking at the house. He was looking at my window. I let the curtain fall and backed away. Heart pounding. Breath shallow. I turned off my bedside lamp. The room went dark. Instantly, the sing. ING stopped. Not faded. Not trailed off. Stopped. Like someone had flipped a switch. I stood there in the dark, waiting. 10 seconds passed. Then I heard footsteps. Slow crunching sounds in the snow. Moving closer to the house. Toward my front porch. The knock was gentle. Polite. 2 soft taps. Not aggressive. Not impatient. Like someone knocking on a friend's door. I didn't move. Another knock. Still gentle. Then a voice. Low. Calm. Friendly. Merry Christmas. I felt my legs weaken. I didn't respond. Minutes passed. Eventually, the footsteps retreated. I stayed frozen until sunrise. When daylight finally came, I checked outside. Footprints in the snow led from my bedroom window to my front porch, then around the side of the house. The back door handle was smeared, like someone had tried it. More than once. I called the police. They told me carolers sometimes wander late. They didn't send anyone. That afternoon, I found a note in my mailbox. No envelope, just folded paper. It read, "You have a beautiful listening face." Underneath, written smaller. Same time next year. I locked every door, checked every window, and that night, just before midnight, someone started humming outside my window. This time I didn't look. I stayed in bed, staring at the wall, counting each breath. The humming slowly turned into singing. A different song, one I recognized. The same one my mother used to sing to me when I was a child. A song I had never told anyone about. Tears streamed down my face as I realized the truth. He hadn't just watched my house. He'd listened. For a long time. I moved before New Year's. Different town. Different house. Last Christmas Eve, at exactly 12:11 a.m., I received a voicemail. No number. Just a recording. Soft singing. Followed by a whisper. "I found you." I unplug my phone every Christmas now. But sometimes, I still hear humming outside my window. After that voicemail, I didn't sleep for 3 nights. I kept telling myself it was a prank, a coincidence, someone random who'd guessed. But the timing was too exact. 12:11 a.m., the same minute, the same quiet stretch of night when a world feels hollow. Lower voice. I started replaying every Christmas I could remember, wondering how much of my life had been visible to someone standing outside in the dark. How many nights I'd left curtains open. How often I'd sung along to old music while cooking. How many details I'd given away without knowing it. A few days later, I finally worked up the courage to talk to my neighbor. He lived in the other half of the duplex. Older guy, quiet, the kind who nodded but never talked much. When I asked if he'd heard singing on Christmas Eve, his expression changed. Pause. Not confused. Concerned. He hesitated before answering. "Yeah," he said slowly, "but not the way you mean." My stomach tightened. He told me he'd heard someone singing weeks earlier. Late November. Same window. He assumed it was someone I knew. He also said something else that made my hands go cold. The voice didn't sound like it was outside, he said. It sounded close. That night, I replayed everything in my head. The way the singing stopped the moment I turned off the light. The way the man had already been standing in my yard, waiting, like he'd known exactly when I'd look. I realized something then that I hadn't allowed myself to consider. What if he hadn't just been watching from outside? What if he'd been inside before? The thoughts sat heavy in my chest. I checked every room, every closet, every crawl space. Nothing, but the feeling didn't go away. On December 27th, I found another note. This one wasn't in the mailbox. It was on my kitchen counter. I stood there staring at it, my mind refusing to catch up. The handwriting was the same. Neat, careful. It read, "You missed the high note." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I sat down on the floor and waited for my hands to stop shaking. I called the police again. This time they came. They walked through the house, checked the doors, windows, attic. No signs of forced entry. One officer asked if I'd ever lost a key. I said no. He looked at my back door lock longer than the others. "It's older," he said. "Easy to copy." They told me to stay with a friend. I didn't have one close enough, so I stayed. On New Year's Eve, the singing came back. Earlier this time, 11:47 p.m. Same spot, same voice. But this time, it wasn't Christmas music. It was humming again. The same melody from my childhood, only slower, like someone practicing. I crouched in the hallway, away from the windows, covering my ears. The humming continued for nearly 10 minutes. Then I heard something new, a soft tapping on the glass. I finally looked. He wasn't in the yard anymore. He was standing on the porch, close enough that I could see his breath fog the window. He raised his hand, tapped twice more. Then he smiled, not wide, not exaggerated, just enough to let me know he was enjoying this. Pause. He mouthed the words. "Almost time." Then he stepped back into the dark. I moved the next morning. Didn't pack much. Left furniture behind. I didn't care. I just wanted out. The landlord changed the locks. New keys. New address. But on December 24th the following year, I received a Christmas card. No return address. Inside a single line. Same song. New window. I always lock my doors. That's something I've been obsessive about since I was a kid. Deadbolt, handle, back door, windows. I check them in the same order every night. So when I woke up on December 22nd and found a wrapped Christmas gift sitting under my tree, I knew something was wrong. I lived alone. No roommates. No nearby family. And I hadn't put it there. The gift was small, wrapped carefully in red paper with a green ribbon. No tag. Just sitting under the tree like it belonged there. I stood in the doorway for a long time, trying to convince myself I'd forgotten it. Maybe I'd bought something online. Maybe a delivery had been left inside by mistake. None of those explanations made sense. I checked the locks. Every one of them was still locked. From the inside, I didn't want to open it, but leaving it there felt worse. Inside was a pair of gloves. Mine, the ones I'd lost the previous winter. Folded neatly. Clean. Warm. Like they'd just been worn. I felt sick. Those gloves had gone missing months ago, before I even lived in that house. I spent the entire day trying to explain it away. Someone must have found them. Someone must have returned them late. But none of that explained how they ended up inside my locked home. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch with all the lights on, watching the tree, waiting. I must have drifted off, because when I woke up, there was another present, bigger this time, placed closer to the tree, closer to me. I stood up slowly, every muscle tight. This one had a tag. My name was written on it, in handwriting I didn't recognize. Inside was a USB drive. I plugged it into my laptop. There was only one video file. It showed my living room. At night. The angle was wrong. Too low. Too close. Then I saw myself on the couch, sleeping. I wasn't being watched from outside. I never had been. Someone had been inside my house. While I slept. For a long time. I noticed details in the video I hadn't before. My phone charging. My shoes by the door. The tree lights blinking. Then movement. A shadow crossing the hallway. Stopping. Turning toward me. On Christmas Eve, I didn't come home. I stayed with a co-worker. Left the house empty. Or so I thought. When I returned the next morning, the tree was gone. So was the couch. So was the laptop. In their place. One final gift. Large. Heavy. Wrapped perfectly. The tag read, "You forgot something." Inside was a printed photo. Me. Standing in the doorway. Taken from inside the house. The timestamp was from that morning. 5 minutes before I arrived home. I moved the same day. New city. New locks. new habits. But every Christmas morning, there's a gift under my tree, wrapped, waiting, and I never put it there.